Hey everybody, we are back with another episode. Hopefully my hair is much poofier in this episode, but anyway, I digress already. We are going to be talking about in this video what happens when we neglect our highest vision that we have for ourselves, when we neglect our dreams, when we neglect our genius. We end up taking on this identity of a survivor, okay? Which there's nothing wrong with that, because to have survived something means that you have overcome. It means that we have been resilient. But guess what? There's something beyond survival mode, okay? There's a thing called thriving, which is beyond survival mode. But so many times we become comfortable in that survival mode because we have learned how to adjust. We've learned how to conform. We've learned how to do things to be comfortable or just get by, even when we know in the back of our minds that we're meant for more. We're meant to have more, be more, do more. Okay. And when I say do more, I'm not talking about doing more work. I'm talking about doing more as far as doing more of what brings us joy. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Doing more towards freedom, doing things that give us freedom, that make us feel free. Okay. That put us in freedom mode. All right. So we're going to talk about that. So one of the reasons why we stay in this survival existence is because it keeps us in our place. What do I mean by that? So I will use myself as an example. When we talk about the highest vision for ourselves, it goes beyond, yes, it's about us having more. Yes, it's about us living in our genius and attaining our dreams, living the dream, our dream, not a dream that someone gave to us, being successful in the way that we define success for ourselves, being free to be fully expressed. And that means we are thinking in a new way. Some of us may be dressing in a new way, wearing our hair different than what we've been wearing our hair, living in a new space, living in a new way, living in a different city, a different country, okay, driving a different car, speaking in a new way. Perhaps you have spent in survival mode, staying in your place by not speaking up for yourself, by not being assertive and always saying what you need and what you want. Okay. Almost people pleasing. Maybe not full force, but you've existed in a way where you're not being completely honest with yourself. So therefore you're not completely honest with the people around you. And I used to do that. Because when you're not living fully expressed, you are not being honest. You're not being honest with yourself. So how can you be honest with other people if you're not honest with yourself first? So this staying in our place, which is really another way of saying staying in a box, staying within certain boundaries that may be acceptable by people outside of you, people around you, family, friends, existing in a way that matches a certain type of program or programming. Okay. And why do we do this? Going back to survival mode. We use that as a way to survive. And it really shows up. The reason why I am relating this to interpersonal relationships because many times it shows up in those relationships. Because we get used to being a certain way. So then the people that are closest to us get used to us existing in a certain way. They get used to us being a certain way, or talking a certain way, or having conversations in the same way. Because because we've gotten comfortable with it, so have the other people in our lives. So when you start to shift and you start to say, okay, wait a minute. Yes, I've survived, but it's time for me to thrive, which means I need to start speaking what I want. I need to embrace this higher identity that I see for myself, which means my conversation is going to change, which means my perspective is going to change, which means I'm going to start being more vocal about my perspective. And that can cause a little bit of a rock the boat situation. I don't mean in a good way, but it can cause friction, not in you, but in the people that have gotten used to you being a certain way. All right. So we stay in survival mode. We stay in our place because we think it's going to keep peace. But the funny thing about that is that it does not. It may keep outside peace for a certain amount of time, but your internal is imbalanced because you're not being true to yourself. We think that if we stay in our spot, stay in our place, stay in this box, that we are somehow showing more love, that we're being more loving, which isn't real. Because if you're not loving aspects of yourself that want to be expressed, how can you show true, genuine love to someone else if you're not showing it to yourself first? Also, there is the programming aspect that tells us, well, we have to now, because everyone has gotten so used to how we're being, we've learned that if we act a certain way, if we say a certain thing, if we do a certain thing, then we'll be accepted, or this person will be proud, or that person will be proud, but only if we're staying in our place. Also, we want to be included. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be excluded from everything. No one says that. We can wake up and we can say, well, I don't care if I'm by myself, or I don't care if I get excluded or get omitted from the invitation list. But there's a part of us that does. No one wants to be an outsider, or no one wants to be considered the black sheep. And here's a side note about, being the black sheep. First of all, no, I don't want to be a black sheep. You shouldn't want to be a black sheep. A sheep follows. Okay. Anyway, side note. Anyway, so I want to break down those 4 things. So the first thing is staying in your place creates this boundary that you've created for yourself. Hence, other people have adopted to that. So now they treat you likewise. All right. So this boundary, it keeps you acting, behaving, speaking a certain way that may not be feeding your soul at all. It may have served you for a certain amount of time, but not anymore. Not for this next level of existence that is waiting for you to embrace. And then I talked about the peace, the surface peace that we think that we are maintaining because we're staying in our place. It's an illusion, all right? Because of the internal effects because of the internal imbalance that it causes. When you do that, when you are staying in a box, you're suppressing a certain identity. You're suppressing that new identity in you, that upgraded. And when I say upgraded, I'm not saying that the identity that we have had has been wrong, or there has been something wrong with it, or is bad. No, I'm just saying we're meant to evolve. So that's what I mean by upgrade in your identity. You're evolving. It's an evolved identity. Because if you're not evolving, you're dead. Okay? And, well, we could even get into that, but that would be a totally different video. So let's bring it back. Let me reel it back in. You are suppressing. There is no peace there because you're suppressing this higher identity, because you realize that if you step out, if you embrace that, it could possibly make other people feel uncomfortable. Maybe you have started to unfold in front of people and you realize that there's some friction there. And what I will tell you is that don't pretend like the friction is not there. Yes, what you're seeing is friction, and it's okay. It's fine. Okay? Because when you evolve, the people around you, they've got a couple of choices. They can either accept that you're evolving, they can begin to evolve as well, or they will eventually phase out of your life. Harsh for people, especially people that are close to you. No, it's not harsh. It's just, that's what happens. All right. You cannot be afraid of that. Also, when we're staying in our lane, or staying in our spot, or staying in our place, we think that we are somehow showing some type of love or acceptance to other people. Here's the thing. Loving others can only be pure when you have accepted yourself, when you show respect for not only the identity that you have had, but this expanded version of you. All right? It can only be pure if you're showing that to yourself first. Because if you are pretending, you are not helping yourself. You're not helping anyone around you. You're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing the people in your life a favor at all. Because then what happens, if you're suppressing your identity, this higher identity that you have for yourself, what's going to happen? You're going to be resentful. And being resentful only hurts you. It only hurts you. It doesn't hurt the person that you're resentful toward. All right? That's what you have to remember. And also, there's a programming aspect that comes into play, like I mentioned earlier. And that's tied into this boundary level of existing that people around you have gotten comfortable with. So, like I said before, it's this thing of where, you think, well, to be accepted or to be worthy of love or to be worthy of support, you must do this, you must say this, you must act like this to be accepted. And then that ties into the idea of us wanting to be included and not wanting to be an outsider. But here's the thing, that number one, when you are embarking on this, I don't even know what to call it, when you're just simply embracing this higher vision for yourself, and you've decided that you deserve more, that you deserve to be the author that you always wanted to be, that you deserve to be the musician that you've always wanted to be, that you deserve to have the business, be the business owner, be the business mogul that you have always known that you're capable of. If you have not existed in that knowing, you could perhaps be viewed as an outsider in your circle. Sometimes that means you have to change your circle. Does that mean you cut off the people in your life? No. But there are just going to be some conversations that you are no longer going to be able to have with those same people. And you have to be willing to be viewed as an outsider. Does that always happen? No, but many times it does. And that's another reason why, especially us as adults, we get used to having the people in our lives. We get used to, interacting with them in a certain way. And then that change happens. And then it causes a little riff. Some of us are afraid of that. You cannot be. You have to be willing. You just have to be willing to be viewed. And I said this in another video. You have to be willing to be viewed as weird. Weird. No one can explain you, or no one can explain. Yes, I said it right. No one can explain you. And that's fine. All right. So leave me a comment in the comment section. All right. And like, subscribe, share this video. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the TamaraTamu Collective, where dreams have no filter. Cheers.